Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and I thought today we would talk about wills and inheritances. It affects all families, even the best of us. So, why do I want to talk about this subject? It's because I've seen so many families break up because of this. And I lay blame in two different places. I lay it on the foot of the person that had the will created, and also the one that manipulated, usually an older sibling. So let me first say that, I never thought it would happen in our family. We were a tight group. Uh, and we're talking 15, 20 years ago, anyways, that my grandmother's will had set up that she thought the fairest way. She first had us come through the house and say whatever we wanted, and she put a mark on it and stuff. And I didn't feel right. I just felt it didn't feel right, so I didn't ask for anything. And I felt that it was hers, for hers to do with as she pleased. I understand now what she was trying to accomplish, but the will read that since my parents had been deceased 20 years prior, my grandmother had on her will that the properties and her belongings and stuff would be auctioned and sold and then split four ways amongst us four siblings. The night before she passed away, she was on morphine as well as a few other things. And my older brother was able to, since he was working at that hospital as well, change my grandmother's will and had two nurses attest to my grandmother signing the new will, which gave everything to him. And when we all found out about it, of course we took it to court, but they just said, well, we can't do anything because we have two witnesses and that's just the way it is. So I tried telling my brother, you got to take the upper ground on this. Be the big man that you should be. And that is sell the stuff, have an auction, because he was the executor of the will as well. And then split it four ways. That was the only fair way to do it. And he said no, he wasn't sharing anything because my grandmother had left it all to him. He ended up selling everything, building himself a new house, and the three of us were left heartbroken, angry, and I can tell you to this day that my two twin sisters, which are 10 months younger than me, and myself have not spoken to him since this has all taken place. I forgave him years ago, but the forgiveness wasn't for him. It was for me to be able to move on to a better place because of all the anger and revenge and everything else it was just eating me up. So if any of you folks out there are in the same situation, but you haven't let go yet, and you're one of the siblings that got the short end of the stick, forgive that other person. And I don't mean go over to your sibling and tell them, I forgive you. No. Just inside, forgive him, her, and allow yourself to move on to a better place. You are taking the upper ground where they didn't. So how can we prevent this from happening? Most often the case with my ex-wife's family, the way their will read was that everything that they owned went to the four kids equally. And they had a farm. They still have the farm with 100 and some acres. And there's tension between the four of them because one can't do something without the other three's, and I think there's a constant struggle over who should pay for what. Now, in that example, those four girls took a lot upper ground than what my family did, by far. I mean, they still are cordial with each other. They still try to work together as a team, but that goes back to wills. All right, and I'm talking to people that are even younger than me that are doing their wills. You have to spell it out. If spelling it out is doing a video will, do a video will of where you sit in front of a camera like I am and you spell it out. Who gets what and how you want it to be divided. But let me also add that while you're doing this, they don't need to know, okay? And this is what I tell everybody my age. The assets that I have right now I'm the one that is responsible for garnering these assets. You know, whether it be gun collection, properties, what have you. I did it. Not my family members before me, and not my kids. I did it. And I look at it as assets. And when I say assets, I mean, and I've always felt this way, that you poured your blood, sweat, and dollars into getting what you have now. And in the event that you fall on a little bit harder times, you need to be willing to sell those assets to do whatever needs to be done to get you in a more stable place. The last thing you should be worrying about is inheritance, giving what to what. That's your stuff. And that's your stuff until you go on to the next place. Because I do believe in God and heaven. So, but you can't take it with you. But in the event that you need money, do not sit on stuff that are sellable because you feel that you want it passed on to the next generation, is what I'm getting at. But I would take and do a physical inventory of what you have, okay? And I would sit in front of a camera like I am, and I would go down through and explain how I want this, this, and this to be done. That means you spelled it out so there's no bickering and fighting. Does it have to be fair? No. It's however you want it. You know, one of your kids do more for you than the other. It doesn't matter. You know, the only time that I see where I think somebody needs to step in and work with you on a will and a video thing is if you have kids that are drug addicts, alcoholics, what have you. Because you don't want to feed that next fix or that next drink. I don't. So in that case, the monies that would go to that person, you should be setting up where it would go to a trust. And the trust should be overseen by the siblings that aren't addicted, that aren't doing drugs and alcohol on a heavy basis. I'm not talking about a weekend, go out and party and stuff like that. I'm talking gotta have it every day to survive and staying somewhat drunk all the time or high all the time. That's the only reason that I would not feel comfortable giving one of my kids money, because I will not support an unhealthy habit. But you have to spell it out for the kids. You know, and when is a good time to do it? Right now. You know, it doesn't take however long to figure out what you got. Sit in front of a camera and spell it out so that you don't have any siblings fighting and arguing over it. The other thing that I would suggest is that you get in with an attorney and have them help you draw the will up. Especially if it's, you have a lot of properties per se or a lot of assets, because you may want to put those into a trust now versus paying inheritance taxes. I'm not an attorney, and that is where you need to seek out and look into this stuff. Because I can tell you, my story is not unique with my brother. It happens to the best families. Even if the will is spelled out, I've seen ones, take more than the others, and it's greed. That's what it is. It's to me, it's being very greedy. And that just isn't in my vocabulary. My vocabulary has always been, to treat other people like I would hope to be treated. And sometimes, yeah, you get shit on. But that's life. But I'm not going to lower myself down to somebody else's level over crap. And that's what it is. Money, properties, what have you. So, do your will today. And I can tell you, my ex-wife and I, we had our wills done when we were in our 20s. And they were updated. You have to keep them updated because things change. Dynamics change. You may have to sell some assets. If you sell some assets, you need to change the will to take that off the table. But you older folks, don't you dare go hungry or without heat or something like that because you want to pass something on to your kids. Screw them. Do what you got to do with your stuff so that you are eating, staying warm, have a roof over your head, and you're not skimping. Okay? On that note, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.